Hello and welcome to Beyond the Scale, Weight Loss and Wellness. I'm your host, Coach Monica. I'm joined today by Coach Darcy, and we are here to guide you through the ins and outs of a lifestyle that's transformed not just our lives, but the lives of countless women navigating the waves of perimenopause and menopause. Whether you're here to shed weight, understand your body better, or simply find a community that gets it, you're in the right place. So sit back and enjoy the next few minutes as we tackle the hot issues of today. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Happy Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. I don't know what day it is.
Happy Tuesday. I just feel like it's springtime. Like I just feel like a bunny rabbit today because it's just so nice out.
It is
so
so nice out. The birds are chirping.
Oh my gosh. I needed that.
So
My
nice.
mental health needed spring.
Yes.
But Coach, we also on Sunday turned our clocks forward. What side of the aisle are you on with that whole deal?
Okay, so let me just say that our dear president of the United States had mentioned that he's 50-50 on this.
Right. So which side do you fall on?
So his reasoning was, well, you know, we want daylight for the kids to get on the school bus. And I said, Mr. President, it's dark. It doesn't matter what time it is, if it's an hour before or an hour after. It's dark. We're sending our kids off to school and it's dark. So let's just keep it as is. That's kind of where I stand. Like,
I'm at night. I'm on the night side. I want an hour on the other side, not in the morning.
No, like it's going to be dark no matter what. Like that's what
I'm going to be grouchy no matter what in the morning.
So Thouist has jet lag from this hour that was taken away from us. But I would say let's just keep it where it is. Like, let's not move it.
Yeah. So what are our listeners? Which side are you on? Are you team A or team B? Do you prefer the morning light or do you prefer the evening light? Which side are you on? Actually, which side are we on now? We're on the night side, right? We're on
Like, where it's still
stay light or day.
Yeah.
So we're on that side.
Like the sunrise is around what, 7:40?
I don't care about the morning. I will never see it.
I do.
Never. One
see
time
it ever.
I'll schedule a vacation on the beach and there'll be one morning that I wake up to watch the sunrise. Those people are crazy. There's a certain class for those people. Who are our morning people? You?
Listen,
dear sister.
I would have people very angry with me in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
When I would this is in high school, I would bring them coffee and donuts in the morning. And they were all still like in this groggy grossness. And I'm here like all chipper with my coffee in hand and donuts for everybody. And they hated me for it. I'm like, why, you haters?
My best ideas come at about 11 o'clock at night. Now that's changing as I am aging. It's changing and I tend to be out, but yeah, I'm a night. I want to stay outside as late as I can. And I just feel like the summer's longer.
Well, what if I fit in both of those categories where I go to bed late and I get up early?
Well, then we'd have to talk about your sleep and how that's
fine.
How it's doing.
Everything's fine.
Yeah.
That's why I'm yawning right now.
So if we have a 50-50 president, we're probably not going to see any changes.
No,
because that's the rule of thumb if you're a preacher or if you're a politician. If you make half of your people mad on one side, half the other, you know you're in the right spot. So
there's more important things that we need to get done. Like, I suppose.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Most definitely about that. There's a lot of things that I would change before the clock. Mm-hmm. And I don't so much mind it, but my grandson, my daughter-in-law texted us this Sunday night because they always come over on Sunday. She's like, this kiddo is not dealing well with the time change, so we didn't get to see them on Sunday. I totally understood it too.
Yeah.
Because even the dogs,
Well,
they know. So
pardon me while I yawn.
speaking
And
of which, it's because you're
yes.
not going to bed early enough, and
Or I've just got an hour of that precious time taken away from me.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, I know. I
anyway.
hear ya.
Yeah.
Hey, today we're going to talk about a topic that really impacts a lot of our clients. There's not one client that I can think of that this doesn't impact. Because we really, really deal with a lot of sugar addiction, carbohydrate addiction. We talk about that a lot. And so today we're going to talk about a topic that people, typically they ask us, hey, when can I eat this again? We put them on
Yes.
on a food plan, and we put them on, they want to change their lives. They want to lose weight. They want to reverse chronic disease. And then we get about maybe 8 to 10 weeks in, and they're like, hey, when can I add this back in? And we always hope that it happens when the client is in our care, because we can walk them through what we're going to talk about today. But sometimes that's why our 8-week program is a nice, pretty little program, but it just really doesn't work for the majority of people, because we don't get to walk through what happens to your brain after a sugar binge. And when we say the word sugar in this podcast, in this Facebook Live, when we say the word sugar, we're talking about all of the things. We're talking about carbohydrates, high glycemic carbohydrates. We're talking about processed food. We're talking about seed oils. So we're talking about all the bad guys. All right. So when we say the word sugar, a lot of people think, well, I don't go and have a chocolate chip cookie binge. Although a lot of us do. So that will relate to some people, but we're talking about all of the things. All right. Um, and it is both physical and emotional. So we're going to talk about both sides today, and we're going to talk about the timeline. A lot of people, and we know it's happening, we know when a client is about to do this, we can tell about 2 sessions before.
Yes.
We can hear it in their voice, we can hear it in their schedules, we can hear it in their lack of sleep, in their overstressed schedules. We kind of know when this is going to happen.
Hey, wait a minute. Just because you said lack of sleep, that does not include me.
I think it does.
Okay.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Sorry.
But we just can sense when this is about to happen. There's a weakening of the walls. There's a weakening of the tall fences that we've built. And we know when a client is about to go into a binge. Now, we try to talk them out of it. Because of what we're going to talk about, it's just flat out not worth it. And if we actually win this podcast over to the masses, if we win, we're going to prevent you from doing this. Because when you go through this cycle, I'm going to talk about the science portion, and Coach Darcy's going to talk about the emotional side and the schedule. So we're going to show you a picture of what happens when to your brain physically. So a lot of people feel like, oh my gosh, I went on this sugar binge. I don't know why I did it, and I can't get out of it. So we're going to talk about the I can't get out of it part, because the I can't get out of it part is not just a lack of your willpower. We're going to show you a picture of what your brain does when you introduce sugar, especially after you have been sugar free. Again, sugar being carbohydrates, processed foods, seed oils. Okay. So when you've been sugar free for a certain amount of time, there's something physical that happens to your brain. I'm going to talk about that. And then Darcy is going to, and then I'll introduce the schedule to you and kind of show you the timeline. And then Darcy's going to talk about the emotional factor, which honestly, I took the easy one. I can't say a lot of these medical words, but I took the easy one, because the emotional part is where you either win the battle of your weight loss and your chronic disease, or you lose it, and you lose it for a while. Okay. So I'm going to show you, for our podcasters, I'm going to talk you through what you're looking at here. But for the people that are watching us live, I'm going to show you a picture of the brain. Okay. This is an image that is a picture of what happens to your brain when you introduce sugar, or again, the processed stuff. Okay. The left side, you can see me pointing over here. I don't think you can. Oh, I don't think you can see me pointing. But the left side of the brain is a gray, boring, yucky, just a picture of a brain. It's got a couple little spikes in there of little, it looks like laser
Energy.
focus energy. It looks like
Yeah.
energy. Yeah. But this is what your brain is supposed to look like. This is why when you're on the ketogenic lifestyle or carnivore lifestyle, you can think so clearly. Look at the difference between the two sides of this brain. The other side, the right side of the brain, has all of these little laser, bright red and yellow. Everything is shooting everywhere. It's a very colorful picture. This is what happens when you put sugar in your body, especially after being off of it a while. So you can see why you have a little bit of brain fog when you have a sugar binge, because your brain is so lit up and firing so many neurons that you are thinking about a million things at a time. So let's take a look at what happens to your brain in a day. Okay, so we're talking, you have some sugar, consuming a large amount of sugar, it activates the brain's reward system. Okay. And this is called the mesolimbic pathway. So your brain has all of these pathways. When you put sugar in your body, you light it up. Okay. It releases a surge of dopamine, which is your feel good transmitter. Okay. And this is depicted in this picture that you saw as intense, colorful bursts. Okay. So it kind of represents, heightened pleasure and motivation. All right. And so here is a word that I want you to know. I did a lot of study on this when I studied the addictive pattern of the brain. The prefrontal cortex. This is the decision-making spot of your brain. In this position, when those dopamine pathways are lit up like that picture shows, you probably will lose temporarily inhibitory control. And so people say, Monica, our clients are like, Monica, I don't understand why I did that. Why did I do that? Well, look at the brain here. You lose temporary control over your decision making, your prefrontal cortex. You lose control over that. And that's in the front of the brain, right? The amygdala, which is your emotion, your ventral tegmental area, which is the reward signaling portion, it becomes overstimulated. And that's why we have clients who are like, I don't know why I just ate a whole sleeve full of Oreo cookies. You lose control over that when you have that instant dopamine rush. You're also spiking your insulin. You're also spiking, you're spiking your sugar, which spikes your insulin. All right. So this is all setting the stage for this. Remember this 3:00 Snicker bar crash. Okay. Because that's the next part. So the first one is the neurochemical stabilization. This lasts for 1 to 6 hours. That's that dopamine rush. That's that overstimulation. But in 6 to 24 hours, okay, you're going to have a post binge crash. And that's an early recovery. Your body's recovering from all of that sugar that you put in there. Okay. So it is when you are like, I just feel like somebody just kicked my butt. The brain's overstimulated state, because of all of that dopamine rush, sends you into a crash. It sends you into a low energy state. And this is where your withdrawal starts to kick in. Okay. This is when you're like, I don't like how I feel. My body hurts. I don't like. This is the coming down from that high dopamine rush that you just did. Okay. Those things are the physical things. And that's the part I'm going to talk about. That's the physical things causing that firing of the brain, causing all of that stimulation followed by the crash. Again, the timeline on that, the first part is 1 to 6 hours, all right, where that brain is just firing like crazy. You're feeling good. This is why you want more of what you're eating. This is why you don't understand, because the prefrontal cortex is out of commission. You don't have the reasoning, and that's why you eat a whole sleeve full of Oreo cookies, followed by the post binge crash. But here is where our struggle comes in. okay, as coaches, because we deal with a lot of food addiction, right? We deal with we deal with the ramifications of what just happened during those first two stages. That's science. That's why you're legit when you say I don't know why I did it. Your brain's chemicals. That was what was controlling your prefrontal cortex was not working, and that's why. But here's where we have to pick up the pieces. And this is where Darcy's going to talk. And she's going to take you down two more timelines, okay, of what happens and how this is where relapse happens. And this is where people walk away from the quote diets. All right.
Mhm.
So Darcy, are you finished with this image? Are we gonna
Yeah, sure.
okay. All right. So
Yeah.
Darcy's gonna take us down the timeline, the next two timelines. All right.
I'm just winging this, right? Cool.
Yep, you're good.
So I want you to picture yourself in that moment before you take that one bite. In those moments where you are, I think the word desperation comes into play when you are in that, and the desperation was caused possibly by you being overly stressed. Maybe you are like with me, I am ready for springtime to be here. I'm ready to be able to get outside. I'm done being cooped up in the house. You are in this moment where you just need something. Your brain's saying you just need something. And we know what your brain's actually needing, but you think it is, oh, I'm going to go ahead and have that tub of ice cream. Or I'm going to have, this bite of this or that. I can't handle not having these carbs anymore. Like if you're in a detox mode. So when you are able to you're in that moment, you've put yourself in that moment because your job is just overly stressful. Life in general is just super chaotic. Maybe there's arguments in the house. Maybe there's just all these things that are super overwhelming. You put yourself into that desperation mode. Now, you talked about the 5-second rule, that book that you're reading, but she talks about the 5-second rule where we're able to talk ourselves in or out of something in 5 seconds. And, whether it be talking yourself into that one bite, or maybe it's talking yourself out of going to the gym, you're able to take that moment when you are super desperate, when you are super emotional, uh, and you're utilizing your tool of food to satisfy that need. You're feeding into that with that one bite. You are in that moment of desperation you've put yourself into. So when we have an overly cluttered schedule, arguments, all those things, that's a good sign that you're going to have a moment of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I like to use the word, emotional eating tends to be the gateway into addiction. I, we talk about gateway drugs. That is a gateway drug. Those one bites of here and there's and thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to handle this one bite. This one day of having a bun on my sandwich is not going to hurt me. But in all the case, you go back to that picture and you see what it actually does to your brain. To me, that brain on the right side looked like a messy, tangled up couple necklaces tied together. And the feelings that you get when you are trying to untie, which for me does not fit into play because I like untangling necklaces like a fool. But to me, it's a moment of where somebody's trying to take some necklaces apart, and it's just so cluttered. And so what happens when you are feeling that, you start to get anxious. Your brain, the color on that other side for our podcast listeners, it was red. So to me, that was inflammation, that was inflamed, that was anxiousness, that was worry, that was all these things starting to happen into your brain, which ends up into desperation. You're willing to do anything just to numb it,
and
just to get it over with.
Going to fix it. Right. You've been conditioned to know that sugar is going to calm it down. And I'm going back to the timeline here of 1 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
For 1 to 6 hours, you're going to feel a little bit of peace and you're going to feel good, which is what draws you to this until you see the scientific reason of when we get to day 3 to 14, when we're going to talk about up here, you kind of know you're going to feel good for a little bit.
Right.
However, days 3 to 14 come and then you're stuck, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like so your brain I want you to imagine, you're I'm gonna use a dog. Sometimes if a dog has a certain pathway that it likes to take a jaunt around the house. If
Mhm.
it continues to make that pathway over and over and over, the grass starts to wear out. That's what's happening
Mhm.
in your brain when you are constantly feeding it that trigger food that
Mhm.
makes you happy at first. When that one food decides to not satisfy that need, that's when you up the game and you add more
Mhm.
things to that. That's another new neurotransmitter in your brain that you're creating. So anytime that you have that one bite, you might detox from sugar for a month. You might
Mhm.
detox from sugar for 5 years. If you introduce it again, that neural pathway is still there. It doesn't
Mhm.
get covered up. It doesn't grow back. It's still there. So it remembers. Your brain is pretty amazing on
Yeah.
the things that it can remember and
So
then cover up.
it'll still light that one. I'm thinking of your example of the dog. That's a great example, by the way.
Thanks.
Um, when you narrow, you make that path a little muddy, you make it path, and then suddenly the dog says, "Oh, I want to. This is nice green grass over here. I'm going to go this path." You're still that grass is still dead on that first original pathway, but
Yeah.
then he's making another one. It's a symbol to me of that sugar that I had for breakfast wasn't enough. Now I need to add more to get the same dopamine hit. And so it's like drugs. You need more and more and more in order, but those other pathways are still lighting up. And that's where you
Yeah.
get the chaos in the brain.
Yes.
When you come down, though, that is the problem. And that is why people fail at dieting, because when you come down, you are stuck with 3 to 14 days resetting the reward sensitivity. And that's what Darcy was talking about here. You've got to reset that. So if the binge is a one off event, like after you've been off of sugar for a while, um, the brain's reward system, which I called it the mesolimbic pathway earlier. I don't like to use those words because it makes me sound smart and I'm not, right? But that's what the
Okay.
pathways are. Those remain hypersensitive, like Darcy was explaining with the path of the dog. That still remains hypersensitive to sugar cues for weeks. Now, it's like what happens when the dog stops running that pathway. It could take weeks for that grass to grow back, but it does grow back, right? But it could take weeks. And
Hmm.
so the dopamine receptors can take time to recalibrate. So you're going to struggle on the craving, wanting to binge. You're going to struggle and it's going to be hell week for you for about 3 to 14
Yeah.
days.
Also, you have to think about in that moment that during that period of time, emotionally, what you're doing to yourself now is that you're feeling guilt and you're feeling
Mhm.
shame. And you're like,
Yes.
I just can't ever do anything successful,
Yeah.
which then either is going to keep you down and it's
Mhm.
going to keep you like, well, why am I even going to change? Because I can't do it any other time. Or
Mhm.
I always do this. I always repeat the same cycle. So
Mhm.
you are beating yourself up when you do that. And it's
Mhm.
not just the one time that you mess up, it's
Yeah.
every single time.
Yeah.
Even if you make then the next step, if you make one small mistake in eating healthy and you didn't
Yeah.
mean to, you beat yourself up
Yeah.
because that's what we like to go to. So during that healing period of time, you're still beating yourself up.
Yeah. So you're beating yourself up emotionally, and your body is screaming for more sugar because you open pathways up that weren't open before. And so it is a double hit because you're like, oh, see, I screwed up and I'm feeling bad. And now this Diet Coke sounds even more incredible. I don't want to do it. Oh, yes, I do. I don't want to do it. And you're having an internal battle full of shame. And you're like, see, I couldn't do it anyway because you couldn't resist it. And so it's a constant cycle. So this is the biggest relapse risk. This sensitivity resetting period of about that can be up to 2 weeks. So when
Mhm.
we have a client go off plan, there's no question as to what my treatment is. It's you're going back on detox for 14 days because we got to shut off those pathways. We've got to get that grass growing again.
Yeah.
We've got to, we've got to shut those things off. And on top of that, we got to get rid of the guilt and the shame,
Yeah.
right?
All I
I
can
tr-
see is my husband going behind me and shutting off all the lights. Even if I'm still using the room or not. Just goes around shutting the lights
Shutting the
off.
lights off. Yeah, we got to shut it off. We
Yeah.
got to get those. We got to get that. We got to fix those neurons. We got to fix that prefrontal cortex in order so that you can make decisions again. I call it in my addictions treatment plan. We got to remove the drug because that drug is what is causing those. It's not you. There's no shame. It's your brain firing how it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so that is a really hard, shameful time for our clients. We've got to go back to the 3 to 14 days where it takes for your sensitivity and your brain to work again. Okay, and in that time, it's hell week. Your
Mhm.
brain is craving something sweet, right?
But what you could do in between that time, coming from the emotional standpoint, is this is when you can actually take action, not just detoxing
Mm-hmm.
and being miserable and being a martyr about, oh, woe is me.
Mm-hmm.
But now's the time where you can actually work on the mental side of
Mm-hmm.
your, maybe if you're in a program, or if you're contemplating, okay, why am I always in this situation? Why is
Mm-hmm.
this a repeat factor for me?
Yeah.
That is where I promote journaling, or just writing notes. It doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
professional. It can be like Monica, like putting it on sticky notes. Why are certain things, what led you to that moment? Was it because of your chaotic schedule?
Mm-hmm.
Was it because you can't say no to people? Was it because you put people first, which is the same thing as I just said?
Mm-hmm.
But what are the reasons that led you to those moments? So while you are detoxing and being miserable because you are legit detoxing and it's
Mm-hmm.
not fun, it's hell week, you
Mm-hmm.
are going to write those emotions and get it out of your brain. That way
Yeah.
you can visualize in a different perspective. Why are things going so crummy? Why do
Mm-hmm.
I keep falling into the same cycle? And the fact is that when people continue to stay in that same cycle, it means they're not doing the work. They are not working hard enough to
Mm-hmm.
escape from that
Yeah.
repeat cycle.
You can be
They're not willing to
abstinent.
change.
You can be abstinent without being in recovery. Kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of that statement. Yeah, if you're not
Yes.
willing to put into work and fix what just went wrong, you're going to go in another cycle. You're
Yeah.
going to have another binge cycle.
If you think that you can add something back into your lifestyle again, a little bit like we just talked about at the beginning of the
Right.
program,
No, you can't.
you need
You
more
can't.
time.
Yeah.
Let's figure this out.
Yeah, so you can expect the red dog and you can expect hell to unleash on those 1 to 3 weeks. And so you've got to get those behavioral and psychological factors going. You got to get the journaling. You got to remove the stress. You got to be willing to do that, right? You've
Mhm.
got to put some self-care in. But then the last place on the timeline here is the most encouraging. So it's 4 to 12 weeks. So this is after one sugar binge, okay? This is one after 4 to 12 weeks, your brain pathways, your those neurons that we talked about, those receptors, the dopamine receptors, can be reprogrammed. Reminds me of Darcy's example of the grass. That grass can grow back, right? It can be reprogrammed, and you can get the same dopamine hit with eating the healthy foods. You can numb those other ones down. You can get rid of those sugar binge feelings. You can get rid of those those dopamine hits that you used to get with the old patterns that you have. You can regrow. It's called neuroplasticity, okay, in the prefrontal cortex. This just means you can fix it. But it takes 4 to 12 weeks
Mhm.
of consistency, of not having these binges, of not rewiring those old pathways, okay? Research on food addiction suggests that this can take 1 to 3 months, mirroring early recovery from substance abuse disorders. It mirrors drugs and alcohol. Okay, but even after this period, relapse is possible. Okay, number one, if you've got an enabler in your house who says, "Oh, just one bite," all of this pattern that we talked about today stems from just one bite.
Mhm.
So if you are an enabler, let's talk to those people for a minute. If you are an enabler, what you're doing to your friend or your family member is disgusting.
Mhm.
Honestly, this is what you're doing to that family member. This picture here that we're showing on our screen is from just one bite. that can send your friend or family member into a 3 to 4 month relapse. Just one bite, that's what this is.
And
Now,
that's
this
not just geared towards food either.
exactly,
That's
exactly,
any addiction.
any addiction.
Yes.
So stop it. Just stop it. If you're an enabler, just stop it because you're not helping your friend.
It's kind of, in my viewpoint, a very prideful and arrogant thing
Mm-hmm.
based on the fact thinking that because you're able to control yourself, you're assuming that this other person can do it too.
Right.
This is why fitting somebody in a box of one size fits all does not
Mm-hmm.
work, because no, we are not the same. This is not going to work for everybody. And I think you've got to be able to put your feet in their shoes for a moment to just
Mm-hmm.
actually see, like, oh, I
Yeah.
see their struggle.
Yeah.
There's all this trauma in their back history that could be potentially the reason why they are dealing with this addiction.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that you are not considering. That's why even some of those people that used to eat like I used to eat, where I would make everything with honey or dates or agave or eat quinoa or
Mm-hmm.
refried beans, things like that, because it was considered healthy.
Right.
Yes, it's a healthier option, but that's not going to be a one size fits all for those people out there
Mm-hmm.
who struggle with this problem of
Yeah.
addiction.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because those high glycemic foods, even the healthy carbs, those do the same thing to the brain. They can, depending
Yeah.
on how sensitive you are. And if you are a very insulin sensitive person, those things are going to do the same thing. Now, some people can handle it. Some people can handle strawberries. Some people can handle, the higher glycemic foods. Most people struggle with this. When I have oatmeal in the morning, even steel oats. If I have oatmeal, I am ravenous all day long.
Hmm.
I don't even have to put any honey. I don't have to put anything on it. I am starving all day long, and part of that is this scientific process here of your insulin and spiking, that dopamine pathway. So let's talk about some strategies to prevent relapse. Number one, it's removing the drug. We talked about that,
Hmm.
stabilizing the blood sugar and the dopamine. You just got to remove it. You got to get it out of your system. We put our clients on a very, very high intense detox. Okay. Because we got to prevent those glucose spikes. We got to prevent the crashes. We've got to get their brain, that left side of the gray brain picture, we've got to get it calm. We've got to remove the drug. Okay, so
Hmm.
eating balanced meals, a balanced ketogenic diet is the one that works the best. Carnivore works even better, right?
Yep.
We avoid the artificial sweeteners right at first. We don't play with them until later because we want to stabilize the blood sugar. We want to bring down those dopamine spikes, right? And then boosting natural. Darcy, can you talk a little bit about boosting natural dopamine alternatives? Because dopamine's a good hormone, right? That's the one
Yeah.
that makes you feel good, right? Dopamine is
Right.
wonderful, and there's ways that you can spike that naturally without the
Right.
sugar.
That is through exercise. That's why I
Yeah.
I promote exercise only in that regards, not for weight loss, but for muscle strength and the dopamine, but also putting yourself with people that you love.
Hmm.
That's another one. Making time
Hugs.
for it. Hugs. Oh my goodness. I go. I know maybe they think I'm a weirdo, but I love hugs and I love giving out hugs and the awkward long hugs, the ones that make people feel like, okay, this is okay.
I
But
don't like
that
those. I don't like
I
those.
love doing those because it gives that person and I do this with my kids when they're super uptight and they've had a stressful moment. I just hug them until they do this.
Uh-huh.
That moment, you feel it. And that means that they are relaxed. That
Yeah,
was like that shot. And sometimes I know you're going to come at me, all whoever's listening and that's an introvert and doesn't like people to touch them.
that's
I hear
hilarious.
you. It's okay. It's going to be
That's so
fine.
funny. We have one of
Um,
those people at our church. She doesn't like hugs at all, and she's very vocal about it. And it's become a joke. But you know what I want to just all the time do now when she walks
it's just
by?
you want to
I
hug her,
just want
right?
to hug her. I just want to hug her because I
It's
am
like
a
looking at
hugger.
the pink elephant in the room.
I know. Come here.
But
I'm
just
gonna
take
convert you. I know I can.
okay, so besides hugs, there's other things that you can do for social interaction. Like take somebody out, have coffee with them. Do
Yeah.
something where you make time not only for yourself, but maybe you're giving somebody else an opportunity that their schedule's just overly packed and they're just nonstop. It's going to give a moment to just, sit down, have that cup of lemonade or coffee or whatever it is, and just chit chat and laugh.
Mhm.
Laughter is such good medicine. And then
Yes.
also things of getting creative. It's springtime out there. You guys can start, projects that you wanted to do all winter long and you just kept stewing over getting your garden ready. This is the part where I get really excited that, yes, there's going to be a lot of yard work, but I'm that weird person that loves that yard work. Maybe not in the fall. I need a break. But then come springtime, I'm ready to plant those flowers. I'm ready to plant those plants. But if you have some other hobby that makes you happy, do it. You have to make time for it
Mhm.
or it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's kind of the biggest, I think,
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
it happen and doing
Totally.
it.
I would be if I didn't have Great Danes, I would be a plant person, but there's just no way I can have because the yard you talked about, that's just my yard and it will never change
They go
until I get rid
everywhere.
of Great Danes. And I'm not willing to get rid of my Danes. So
No, that's a boost in your dopamine unless the
that's
one is
right.
being a teenager and you are
That's
yelling
right.
at it
Yes. Yes. We
because he's
spend a lot of
done
time yelling these days.
well, depending yeah, he's going through his teenage phase.
Oh, Remy. Yeah. So yeah, those things, finding a hobby, hugs. Um
Or
Practicing,
not
here's
hugs.
one, or not hugs. Short hugs are great.
Short
Love
hugs.
short hugs.
High fives. I don't
High
know.
fives. Yeah, I don't like those. That reminds me of COVID for some reason. No, I'm a hugger.
Oh,
I remember, oh my gosh, I remember the first time we were allowed back in church after COVID, and I had been at home and I was sitting next to this older lady, and we were not encouraged to hug when we came back to church, which don't get me started about that, or I would pull my soapbox right out. But I'm not going to do that this
nope.
time.
Nope.
I remember the lady next to me. I'm like, I don't care. I am going to hug you. And we were sitting on the second row in the pews. That hug was the most powerful hug I had ever experienced in my life. Hugging her, and she was probably in her 70s, 80s. And we just sat there. It was just like, it was the most healing hug I had ever had. And I wasn't even sorry about it. I don't care. I probably started the gossip chain of the church. I didn't care. It was healing to me. It was absolutely healing. One other thing you can do is you can practice putting those prefrontal controls together again, right? That is the decision. It's right here. It's the decision making part of your brain. And that can be done through things like, mindfulness. Thinking things through, the journaling Darcy was talking about. That is in that line of thinking. The sleep, praying, talking to God, goal setting, of reading a self-help book. Those things are good. I'm reading the 5 second rule
Rule.
right now by Mel Robinson. Doing those things, practicing using your brain. We always joke with our kids, would you use your brain? Well, we've got to practice using the brain. We've got to
Yeah.
practice using the prefrontal cortex because it is numbed and it is broken when we bring in all of that sugar, right? And
Mhm.
obviously the stress, right? Ladies, come on. We've got to get rid. We choose stress a lot of the time, probably the majority. There's some things that we cannot help that are out of our control, but we choose a lot of it and we bring it on because we like to use the word yes. We like to use that. We don't need to use it all the time. No is a complete sentence. We need to
Mhm.
practice using it, right? That is going to help heal the brain. So, this picture that we showed you today, the picture of the brain that is on fire on one side and normal on the other side, this picture can be fixed. But you've got to be willing to put in the work. You've got to be willing to understand that number one, it's science. The reason why you want more sugar and the reason why you relapse so many times, it's science. Your brain, you can see a picture of it right here. Okay. But you got to be willing to do it. And you've got to understand that those phases, that timeline that you're going through, the reason why you're wanting to kill somebody for sugar is science,
Yeah.
right? You lit up some pathways that had been dead for a long time. So you're going to have to you're going to have to white knuckle it through sometimes.
I think the biggest thing though is you're going to have to eventually grieve the drug. And
Yes.
I'm calling the food the drug because that's the thing
Mhm.
that's causing you to go back to it. It's
100%.
that addiction. So you have to grieve it. You have
Yeah.
to say, I know that this is my weakness.
Mhm.
I cannot have this.
Yeah.
I cannot have this. And you can be sad about it. I'm
Mhm.
still sad about certain foods that I don't get to enjoy anymore,
Mhm.
but my body doesn't like it. My brain
Mhm.
doesn't like it. But we have to grieve, and however that looks like, whether that you make a poem about how much you don't like the fact that you have to grieve this food
Yeah.
and what this food used to be to you,
Right.
then do that.
Right.
But in the end, if you don't grieve that food and
Mhm.
admit that you can no longer have that in your life, you're gonna find yourself back in the same pit. You're going to find yourself back over and over and over again until you are willing to completely grieve it and give it up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And also take off of your plate the guilt and the shame, because part of what you have to actually do it. You have to have enough courage to put a stop to these dopamine spikes that come from sugar. You got to have enough courage, and like Darcy said, grieve over it. But also understanding that because you failed over and over and over, not your fault. And I am not one to say, because I'm a personal responsibility girl, right? I am. Well, just stop it. Just stop it. Well, you didn't know what it was doing to your brain, right?
Mhm.
And 1 out of 3 people listening to us today are food addicts, by not by choice. Sometimes it's the chemicals that are put in our food. Thank you, RFK. This week he was meeting with the top head of the food chain of the big food industries, and they're talking about how do we remove this crap from our food. We don't have control over that.
Right.
We do have control over what we put in our bodies, so we can't stop eating the Fruit Loops. We can't stop eating the diabetes bowls, right? We can do that, but also the stuff that they put in it, out of our control. I'm livid with LMNT right now. Livid. Because they're putting crap in a wonderful product. They have a wonderful product and they're putting maltodextrin in it. They don't have to do that, right? But they're not disclosing it either. That's not helping the brain, right?
Right.
Anything with the word MALT is sugar. They're putting sugar in a wonderful product. Pretty ticked at them for that. I tagged him on my ex account yesterday. I tagged him with RFK's meeting with all of the big food. I'm like, LMNT, let's get some honesty here in what you're putting in your product, because we'll
Right.
come back. I'm not
Right.
coming back till it's out. Right?
Thing is, the thing that somebody brought up to me the other day, I know this is a little bit off topic now, um, but these other companies, these big companies, they export their products overseas, but those
Mm-hmm.
countries do not allow these dyes in their country. So they
Yeah.
already have the formula, already have these products being made
Yeah.
for other countries, but yet they choose to poison their own hometown. So there's nothing challenging about this. It's just the fact that maybe they're going to lose some money in
Mm-hmm.
the fact
Money.
that they're having to spend a little bit extra for expensive
Exactly.
materials.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're
don't
living in a
worry.
good time right now.
Yeah.
Good time right now.
Yes.
All right. So that's our show for the day.
Well, we shouldn't
That's our
end on
show.
that.
Yeah. Let's just I want you I want our listeners to just kind of chew on it for a week or so. Just kind of chew on the fact, what are you eating and are you lighting your brain up? Are you helping your prefrontal cortex or are you hindering it? Are you stuck in this addiction cycle that you can't get out of? If you're stuck in this cycle, then you do need help. Then you need a coach to come walk alongside of you. If you keep going back to the old pathways and you're like, why in the world did I do that? It's science. You're doing it because you fed your brain sugar, because you fed your brain this stuff. And it's going to take, I hate to tell our clients, some of our clients are listening right now and are in the middle of a relapse. I'm not going to call you out, but if you are in the middle of a relapse and you keep going back to that sugar, it is not going to get better for you for about 12 weeks. You're going to have to white knuckle it out of this relapse, and it's going to take a while to get out of it. Okay. So you got to decide. We can't decide for you. You're going to have to decide, I am mad enough that I am willing to white knuckle this thing for a couple of weeks because I am stuck and I can't get out. Right?
And it's hard work.
Hard
But you can do it.
work. But you can do it. You can
Mhm.
totally do it. So we are live every Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think I'm going to be alone next week because I
Yes,
think you're
you
on
are.
vacation. So
Yeah.
who knows what we'll talk about next week. And then the week of the 22nd, I am on vacation. So you'll have Coach Darcy. And so, yeah, not the 22nd of April.
No,
So I still have a whole nother month.
You're jumping the gun.
I was just needing to get out of here. Oh, if you need help, if you are on the struggle bus, if you cannot get out of this cycle, I just opened up a package that is not even on the website. I'm not going to put it on there, but I opened up a 6-month slot for my addiction treatment center. So if you know you struggle with food addiction and you're willing to do the hard things, that is available. You have to private message me for that one because it's not on the website. If you need help with weight loss, if you need help with getting rid of this diet cycle that you're on, Coach Darcy and I both have spaces in our 3-month program, which is the most beneficial. That is our most popular.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, it really is. We get them for 3 months. We get to walk through the dark stuff with you. And usually you're not done by then. And we put you on another program, but the 3-month is where you need to start. So message Coach Darcy or myself. Go to kmhealthcoaching.org. And that will send you to our homepage. And then you can find Coach Darcy on there. She's got her own website. I have my own website. And you'll find us. We recommend you schedule a session with us first, though, so we can make sure you're in the right program because that is important. We do not want you in the wrong program. There's certain clients that I would not accept into our hormone program because they're not ready yet. Right. So make a schedule, have us do a health assessment on you first. That's completely free. And on our website, there is a carnivore ice cream recipe on there too. Ooh, I saw that was still on there yesterday. I was going to take it down. I thought, why not keep it up there? So kmhealthcoaching.org if you are interested or if you need help. All right. I will see you next Tuesday morning. And we release our podcast, Beyond the Scale, Weight Loss and Wellness. Head over there, click subscribe. If you're on the Apple podcast, give us a review over there. That really helps us know what you want to hear. So, all right. You have a great day, Coach. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Take care. Hey, it's Coach Monica here. Guess what? If you're fed up with feeling stuck in your battle with weight or food, I've got something just for you. Check out our free Facebook groups. Over at Food Addiction and Recovery, I'm over there waiting for you. We're going to walk this journey together. It's about getting real, sharing our stories, and lifting each other up. We're in this together every step of the way. And if you're curious about changing your life with keto, the Weight Loss Project is where you want to be. Coach Darcy is amazing. And together, we're not just talking about losing weight. We're talking about finding a happier, healthier you. So, what do you say? Are you ready to join us? The links are in the show notes below, and I'm telling you, this is more than an invite. It is the start of something great. We cannot wait to see you over there.